Now we're going to take a look at that debris. I don't know why this watermark has popped up already. I think it's, maybe the internet cutting off or something like that. But let me just jump into my out and into force object and to debris render. Grab that, click render again. We might see the watermark disappear now. It's still there for some reason. I might have to just restart Houdini. It's kind of annoying, it does pop up sometimes. I'm just going to save this and restart and see if it goes. There we go. I just restarted Houdini and rendered again, and there's no watermark now. So yeah, the size of these particles is driven by, so here you've got a couple of different things in the Arnold tab. You can use shapes here, point scale, so I can drop that down, and they should go smaller, but they don't. Maybe I have to refresh it. There we go. So they go smaller there. I'm going to set this back to its defaults though of, well, it's set to 1. You can see there's an expression there. Oops. And that is connecting the geometry with a point scale. So that's just copying this value. You can see that's changed to 0.3 as well. But I'm going to set that to 1. Okay, so that it doesn't kind of interrupt what I'm about to do. So I'm going to jump into the debris render here. And I'm going to set the scale by using the pscale attribute. So attribute randomize. And if we set this to pscale and set it to a dimension of 1, because it's not a vector, it's just a float value. Turn that visualizer on and visualize that. We should see a variation in size. There we go. So we got some very big points and some very small, even though you can't see them because they're covered by the big points. So let's stop that a moment and set the value to be really small. 0.005 to 0.001, something like that. Render that again. And there we go. So we got some really tiny points now. We need to get them small enough so we can't tell that they are spheres, which they are. You can either render them as geometry, so kind of copy more interesting shaped geometry to that, or if you want a lot of points, then just render them as spheres and they let them be very small. Now let's also set up the dust render, which we've got that set up there, but we haven't set up the ROP yet. So let's go into our out and into the volumes, delete that, and let's grab our forced objects will be the dust render. Okay, and then make sure we change here to the Arnold VOP, volumes VOP, volumes ROP. And we'll keep the same camera, so shot 2 is there, and the light we'll leave, well, we'll connect up the HDR for the moment in case we want to change that later. And let's just hit render on that and see what happens. Okay, so nothing at all, we're not seeing anything. This is big again, let's change the size to half resolution, just while we're testing this. So if we come into our dust render here, it's kind of a bit strange, but you can't really check. But if we go here, we have to go into the viewport to actually run this. And then you can see we've got all these different volumes overlapping. We've got density and velocity. And a kind of clue here is the fact that velocity is split into 3 separate volumes. We've got, for each dimension. So these are Houdini volumes, and Arnold needs VDBs to render. So all we have to do is do convert VDB, drop that, okay, and then convert to VDB, and that will convert all of those into VDBs. So let's try that. Okay, so at least we're seeing something now, but again, we've got this pink, if you remember, diagnostic color, which tells us that the shaders are wrong. So if we come out here, we don't have a shader set up. So let's connect up the shader. If we go to shop and just find volume, there we go. Try that. So that's still not working. So this really, normally this overwrites any shop material path you're setting up in here, or maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's the other way around. But basically we've already got, if I drop an attribute delete here, and we come to the primitive attribute, again we have to go into the scene view and come here. There we go. You can see we got this shop material path. So that's set up by the Pyro SOP node. Okay, so that's setting up a shader for us, and we need to get rid of that because that's a Houdini shader, a mantra shader. So get rid of that, and then now hopefully we should see something. And there we have it. Finally, we can see our volumes rendering in Arnold.